Hi friends, and welcome to the Fibrebound podcast. My name is Ali and I am coming to you today from Adelaide, Australia, where we are having a lovely mild autumn day. It has been a little drizzly today and it's lovely for the garden to get a little bit of rain. It has been a long, dry summer. You can find me on Instagram as Fibrebound, and you can also find me on Ravelry as Alipay. And if you are new here, I predominantly talk about knitting. I sometimes talk about a bit of crochet, which there is none today, I don't think. No crochet today. And occasionally a little bit of sewing. My sewing machine is out of action at the moment though, so that hasn't really happened for a little while. But I would like to get back and do some sewing again in the future. It has been a little while since I have sat down and chatted with you, so today may be a slightly longer episode, though I am going to try to be brief. I have not sat down to talk with you really since January, even though I did publish an episode in March from a fibre festival that I attended. So I would like to show you all of my finished objects that I have accumulated since then, of which I think there are six and a half maybe. And I also wanted to talk to you about a couple of my WIPs that are currently active. I do have others that are hibernating at the moment, so I won't be talking about those, but I will share them with you as I work on them or I finish them. So I think that given how much I need to cover today, I might as well just get straight into it. But before I do, I wanted to thank everyone who is here at the moment. So welcome to new viewers, welcome back to returning viewers. I did announce in my last sit down episode a giveaway that I had not drawn yet, and I thought that it might be best to start with that. So in the last episode, we celebrated 4,000 subscribers. We're up over 5,000 now, which is crazy to me that there are so many of you who have chosen to spend time with me. But in the last episode, back in I think September in 2024, I announced a giveaway for this beautiful skein of yarn. My half-baked hand-dyed in the colourway Autumn in the 70s. Which is kind of fitting that I'm announcing the winner now, given that we are finally in autumn here in Australia, even though other parts of the world are celebrating spring. So I did actually, where is my phone? I did draw the winner before I sat down today, and the winner will be on the screen. So congratulations to Kath Chen 9113. Who is our winner for this beautiful skein of yarn or sock set, which you can knit socks or you can knit a shawl, whatever you wish. It is a self-striping yarn. It is a superwash merino nylon, 380 meters in 100 grams, and it is glorious. I have one of these as well, so I'm hoping to knit mine up at some point soon. But if you contact me via the email address I'll pop on the screen and send me through your shipping details, then I'll be able to get this off in the post to you as soon as possible. Congratulations again. That is a very exciting way to start the podcast today. Now, before I started recording today, this is actually the third time I've sat down to record. I did gather up all of my things and I have quite a few exciting projects to talk to you about. So the first project is this amazing cardigan that I am wearing today. This is the Fresno Cardigan Chunky by Magdalena of Knitonomy, and I love it. I loved knitting it. I love wearing it. I love everything about this finished object. I loved everything about the project as well. So I knit this as part of a test knit in March and April. It took me, I think, 42 days to knit this, which is pretty impressive given that it is an all-over cardigan. Sorry, all-over cabled cardigan. Of course it's an all-over cardigan, but there are cables all over this. So along the front, along the back, along both sleeves. But it was such a pleasure to knit. I haven't knit cables in quite a while, and I really enjoyed every stitch of this project. It's an 8-row cable repeat, so you do feel like you get some rest breaks in there in between the cables and then something to look forward to break up the knitting process, which I found really rhythmic and really wonderful. This flew off of my needles and it was such a pleasure to knit. It is knit flat back and forth, but because there are knits and purls on both sides, you don't feel like you're knitting back and forth. Like there's not long purl rows as an example, which can be a little frustrating with some back and forth knitting for some knitters. I don't mind purl rows, but I know that can slow people down a little bit. Now this pattern is written in Aran weight yarn, and I believe Magdalena Parker's yarn choice for the design was a slightly lighter weight Aran than what I chose for my test knit. So the pattern is designed to be knit on 5.5mm needles, and the yarn weight gives around 170 meters to 100 grams. I think it was around 170. I'll pop it on the screen if it was different. But the yarn that I chose was actually a little thicker. It is also marketed as an Aran weight. However, there are only 125 meters to 100 grams in these skeins. So I chose to knit mine in the Maker Soft and Luxe yarn by Lindcraft. It is a 52% merino, 48% acrylic yarn. But it was wonderful to work with. I really enjoyed working with this yarn. This is all I have left of my yarn, so that was pretty good. I chose this yarn because I had it in stash, and I really was very excited to use up a good significant amount of stash yarn. And this yarn was actually gifted to me by Lindcraft a couple of years ago for doing some promotional work for them, and it was a joy to knit with. I did have to buy one extra ball, which I ordered online, and when I added that, I actually added it to my sleeves, but I don't think it's visible. I think maybe around here-ish it was added to each of the sleeves, and I alternated for a few rounds of the old yarn and the new yarn to make sure that there was no specific mark of change, and I can't see a difference there. I'm not sure if you can on camera, if the camera's picking it up more than the naked eye, but I really can't see where that yarn has changed, even though it was a different dye lot. So if you do find yourself in a position where you need to add a different dye lot to your yarn, I highly recommend adding it in a spot where it isn't too obvious, and if you can get away with making it around that sleeve area, just alternate a few rounds of the old yarn and new yarn to meld them together a little bit, and it might not be so obvious, hopefully. From all of my years of knitting with hand-dyed yarn, that's where I got that idea from, and I think it worked out brilliantly. Now I knit mine because it was a lot thicker yarn on a 4.5mm needle or a US 7, and I did get gauge and I loved it. Absolutely love the way that the cables popped in this yarn and on that needle size. It is just such a lovely piece, and I love this cardigan so much. And I guess the only other thing to mention is that I made one slight modification. I did omit one cable repeat on the sleeves. The last cardigan, or not the last cardigan, but one of the last cardigans that I knit was designed to be quite bulky and oversized. The sleeves ended up turning out to be super long on me, and I find that cardigan a little frustrating to wear. So I made sure that I measured a lot more specifically when I was knitting these sleeves, and I omitted one cable repeat to make sure that the sleeves weren't too long, and they are perfect for me. They're just past my wrist. I don't like them hanging over my fingers. Yeah, they're really lovely, lovely length sleeve. And generally a beautiful cardigan, which I think I may have said a number of times already. In terms of the construction, it is knit top down. You start at the back neck and you do that sort of triangle shape for the back neck. You pick up each of the sides and then you join under the arms and you knit your way down. Once you finish knitting the body, then you apply your button bands. I think that was next. Well, you do the ribbing at the bottom, and then you do your button bands, and then you do your collar, and then from there you can pick up your sleeves and knit those in the round. You could do that a different way. I decided, because I had that one ball that I may or may not need at the end, that I would do the sleeves last. But sometimes it is nice to get them out of the way before some of the other finishings. So having said that, it was really nice to get to the end of these sleeves, to bind them off, and to know that I was done, apart from the sewing of the buttons, which always takes me another week or two to get around to doing once it's blocked. But I am really happy with how this turned out. So yeah, the Fresno Cardigan Chunky, I highly recommend it. If you have or have not knit cables before, I think it is a great pattern. It is such a joy to knit. The chunkier yarn, or the chunkier gauge, I guess, just made this feel like it really flew off the needles really quickly. And I think it was on the needles for around 42 days, which I think is pretty impressive for a garment. So yeah, highly recommend. So let's move on to my other finished objects, and it has so far been a very heavy garment year. The next finished object I would like to share with you is the mini mock neck tank by Jessie Maed Designs. I knit this beautiful piece as part of a knit along that was hosted by Kath from Mindful Melbourne Maker and by Sian of the Obsessive Maker podcast, and this is her. I'm not going to put her on at the moment because it is quite cool today, although I have warmed up after gathering all of my bits and pieces. But absolutely love this piece. I knit this in about 2 or 3 weeks. It was an extremely quick and satisfying knit. I actually started it on the bus. It was a perfect bus knitting project to start with, and then obviously finished it not on the bus. And I knit this in, oh goodness, I don't have any of the details in front of me. So disorganized. I knit the mini mock neck tank using Fiddlesticks 4-ply yarn, and it's the Pepin 4-ply base. I used 2.8 skeins, and they are 50 gram skeins, so I felt like this was a really affordable knit and a very satisfying quick knit as well for a garment. The mini mock neck tank is designed to be a bit more cropped, and it's meant to have a slightly higher mock neck collar. Now, being summer in Australia when I knit this, I couldn't imagine having wool up into my neck, so I did halve the length of the neckband there. Otherwise, I think I pretty much knit it to pattern until we got to the length, and I added a little bit more length to the base and to the bottom of this tank top. I ended up knitting the body to 10 inches instead of what was recommended in the pattern, and this actually fits me quite perfectly. I love wearing it with a long flowy skirt or with jeans, and it's been just a pleasure to wear out and about. I've worn it to work once too and got a few compliments on it, which was quite nice. I don't generally wear a lot of knitwear to work, so I felt like this was a beautiful neutral colour that I could get away with wearing to work, to the office, dress it up, dress it down. It's very versatile and I absolutely love it. Now the colourway that I used for this is, the colourway that I used was colour 428, which does not appear to have a name. So it's a chocolate brown colourway, quite a cool brown there. And it's just lovely. The knitting experience with this yarn was really enjoyable. I really liked the hand feel of knitting with this, and it's a real joy to wear next to skin as well. Super happy with how it turned out and very happy with the finished object. It's been lovely to wear. Hopefully I'm not speeding through these too fast. I still have a few more finished objects to share with you. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is my Summer Weight Love Note top. So this is the Love Note by Tin Can Knits. And I love this piece so much. This is my second Love Note that I've knit. My first Love Note was a standard fingering weight held with mohair version, which I adore, and I wear that a lot. So when I saw that a friend from our local yarn store, Maria, had knit a summer weight one last year, I felt like I just had to have one as well. So this is my summer weight version, which is knit in Queensland Collection It's a eucalyptus yarn, and now I've forgotten the name of that too. And because it's been a few months since I've knit these, I'm not quite sure where all the tags are. It's the Queensland Collection Myrtle base, and it is 100% eucalyptus yarn. It's in the colourway Lapis. Now, I picked up this yarn when I was in Bendigo last year for the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show, and this was my plan all along for using that or for buying that yarn, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I did need to make some modifications, so I did size down for my summer weight one to a size small. My winter weight one is a size medium. And I sized down because I didn't want so much positive ease on a summer garment. I just felt like it didn't need that cozy factor in a summer weight piece. And I'm really happy with my size choice and how it turned out. Really happy with my gauge. I did size down needles as well. I knit this on a 3.75mm needle, which reminds me, my mini mock neck tank, I sized down a needle size as well. I'm a pretty loose knitter, and I'm finding if I size down at least one needle size, it generally gets gauge for me. And I did not gauge swatch for this one because it is a merino base, and I'm pretty confident with knowing how that behaves after washing, and it did not disappoint. But this one I did gauge swatch with because I had never knit with a eucalyptus yarn before, so I didn't really know what to expect from it, whether it would grow, whether it would shrink. Quite often cottons can shrink in certain parameters, so I'm pretty sure they shrink. The row gauge gets greater, so you get fewer rows per inch or fewer rows per 4 inches compared to before blocking, and I think that may have happened here. I can't 100% remember now, again, because I did knit this a little while ago. So I did gauge swatch for this, and I'm really happy with the fit. Now, even though I knit the body as a size small, I ended up having to size up to a medium for the sleeves, just to make sure the circumference of my arms was okay. It just felt like the sleeves were going to be way too tight in a small versus the medium size. So I did add a couple extra increases to accommodate the extra sleeve size, and I made that decision just before splitting for the sleeves. I tried it on and it just didn't feel right. I did talk about this in a lot of detail while I was working on it during Vlogmas, because that's when I made those decisions, but this was finished in January. So absolutely love this, absolutely ecstatic with the yarn. I feel like the yarn is behaving really nicely too. I have worn this once, I think, and I actually did wear this one to work as well. Have I worn it twice? Maybe I've worn it twice. Can't remember now. Maybe I wore it another time. But it is holding up really nicely, and I highly recommend this yarn for summer weight garments. If you haven't knit a love note before, highly recommend knitting a love note. I feel like it's such an iconic pattern, and the fit is so great on that one. I feel like it's not too deep in the sleeves, like I feel like it's just a really great fit and a great pattern. Very engaging with the lacy parts at the top, and then I find that one flies off my needles quite nicely. So that is another garment that I have finished this year so far, and absolutely love it. Now I think that's it for the garments. That's three garments since January completed, so I'm very happy with that. Next up, I'll talk about a hat that I recently knit as well. This is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit. And it's my first Oslo hat, and I'm really happy with how this one came out. I actually see or imagine that I might knit more of these in the future. This one is meant to be as a gift for someone, but we'll see if it fits them before we make that decision. My gauge was way off on this one. I knit this on a 3mm needle per pattern because I didn't gauge swatch. But as I had cast on the first time, I realised my gauge was quite off. So I ended up ripping it out. That ended up being my gauge swatch, and I knit a smaller size. So I was aiming for the adult large size, but my gauge told me that I should really knit an adult small to achieve that size. So my stitch counts are the adult small, but all the lengths are measured or are knit to the adult large. Does that make sense? I'm sure it makes sense. So yeah, I didn't quite get gauge, but this yarn is also quite a lot thicker than what is recommended in the pattern. It is the Scandi Wool by Annette Eriksson, purchased through Spotlight, and it is in the colourway denim. So it's been a very blue year, bluey green year, blue in this light. Unintentionally, but that seems to be where everything has gone. The reason for the blue hat is because that is the colour the recipient requested, a blue. They didn't specify what kind of blue, but yeah, we'll see if this fits them, and if so, then I'll be gifting this one away, and if not, then I may hold on to it because it does fit me. It's actually really lovely, and I might put it on just to show you how it looks. So yeah, very happy. It's a bit slouchy at the top there. It's super warm. It's a three layer? Yeah, it's a 3-layer brim, and very, very cozy. So we'll see if that works for the recipient or not. In terms of modifications, I think the only modification I made, I think I've messed my hair up now. The only modification that I made apart from the size was to cast on over a barber cord for a provisional cast on. I think I've got a link to the tutorial I used in my project page on Ravelry, which reminds me, all project notes or all links to my projects will be in the description box below. I will also include all links to any other makers or podcasters that I mentioned as well. But yeah, I used a tutorial on how to provisionally cast onto barber cords, and used that because when you fold over this brim, it's an interesting construction. You knit the 2 layers together, and then you end up with a 3-layer beanie. It was a fun knit because there was things to look forward to. There were things to sort of break up the stockinette, and as much as I love a muscle burrow, and I do like knitting a muscle burrow, I found this a little bit more engaging, and it still gives you the similar effect with a thicker brim over the ears to keep you nice and cozy and warm. So yes, Petite knit, Oslo hat, highly recommend. And this yarn's actually quite nice too, the Scandi Wool. It's got a little bit of a rustic feel, but it's quite nice. Soft enough on my head, it certainly doesn't bother me. I don't know that there's anything else to say about this one, but it was a fun knit. It was relatively quick. It took me 37 days to knit, so maybe not that quick, but I did knit it in amongst other things. There were other things happening at the time, so I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, another finished object, which was a fun make. Now let's get into my socks. I have 2 pairs of socks to share with you today. So my first pair of socks are what I lovingly have called my January socks. I should get my blockers out, but they've been sitting on blockers for a while, so they have flattened out quite nicely. So these are them. They are knit in this beautiful yarn by Yarnable in the colourway Unicorn Dreamscape. There it is. Hopefully that's not blowing out too much. And I also added a contrast pop of colour on the cuff and heel and toe, and that was just a mini that I found in my stash. I just felt like it went quite nicely with this colourway and was a joy to knit as well. I started doing a lot of walking and treadmill walking this year, so I did actually cast these on the treadmill and did a little bit of the knitting on there, and yeah, they were really real joy to knit. Now this is a plain vanilla pair of socks. I don't really use a pattern anymore, I just kind of wing it. I ended up doing a 1x1 rib on the cuff, because I had initially thought I might do something else on the leg and then decided I just wanted an easy pair. So it's just a stockinette leg. I think it's around 60 rounds for the leg. And we have a heel flap and gusset and a rounded toe. Now my rounded toe is loosely based on the Crazy Sock Lady's sock designs. I've knit so many of her designs. I don't look at them anymore, but that's sort of what my toe is based on. And yeah, this one was on the needles for 45 days, which is quite a long time for me for a pair of socks. But I think I was just so excited about knitting some of these other pieces that they took a bit of a backseat. But they are lovely. I knit these on as a 64 stitch count. So again, these are designed as a gift. These were knit to be a gift for a friend whom I haven't seen for a while. So they'll be gifted when I see them. And yeah, I did 55 rounds for the leg actually, and then 60 rounds for the foot. On a 2.25mm needle. I think I've been saying the needle sizes, I can't remember. But yeah, they were a fun knit, a bit of bust knitting, a bit of treadmill knitting. Really nice to have those done. And then my other pair of socks for this year so far, I haven't knit that many socks because I've been knitting other things, have been this lovely pair that I knit for my husband for his birthday recently. Oops. Now they match up until about this point, and then they stop matching. And I think that's got more to do with the way the yarn went through. Or maybe it was user error. But I like a matchy sock, but I'm not too fussed that they don't match, because at the end of the day they match in the part where they might be visible. You can't see in the shoe whether they match or not, and it's fine. I don't think my husband cares whether his socks match. I know he doesn't actually, and he loves the length of these. I made these extra long for him. These socks I used the Regia Design Line 6-ply by Annette and Carlos. It's in the colourway 03657, which may have a colourway name on the website. It's the colourway Summer Night. So that's what I've got left of that ball. Given that it's a 6-ply, which is a little bit different to an 8-ply or a DK weight sock, I did use the DK weight vanilla sock pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady for these socks. But I ended up using a smaller needle. I used a 3mm needle instead of a 3.25. So for my DK weight socks, I would normally use a US 3.25mm. But because this yarn was a little finer, yeah, so 150 gram ball has 375 meters. So it is a finer yarn compared to a standard DK weight sock yarn. So I used a 3mm needle. I'm a pretty loose knitter though. So I did find that my gauge was still very similar to my DK weight socks anyway. So I felt that was interesting, and I think they fit my husband. I'm not sure he's tried them on. I gifted them to him for his birthday and then promptly took them back so that I could show them to you. And so he hasn't actually worn them yet, but he'll get them after this recording is finished, and he can wear them as he wishes. But yes, they were a lot of fun to knit. DK weight vanilla sock pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, and the yarn was really lovely to work with. I bought this yarn when I was at Morris & Sons last year in Melbourne, and actually ended up buying 3 different colourways, and I'm really happy I did because it was such a joy to work with. These knit up so fast. I think the second sock in particular, because I was approaching my husband's birthday, took me maybe 2 days to knit. So very, very fast, given especially it's such a long leg. And he's got quite large feet too, so it's not exactly a small sock, but flew off the needles. Was a really nice yarn to work with, felt really nice in my hands and on the needles. Yeah, it was absolutely a joy and a pleasure. So that is my last official finished object. Now I have one more that is, the knitting's finished. I just haven't done the finishing yet. So on Easter Sunday, I decided that I would cast on a little something as a bit of a palette cleanser. And I actually ended up making 2 of them. And so these will be the emotional support chickies that I cast on. Now they're just sort of joined up at the moment so that I don't lose the little breast piece. So I've started seaming up the face there. This is the underbelly bit. I need to seam them, stuff them, add some eyes to both of them, and they will be finished. And I intend to give them to my little nieces as a late Easter present. I knit these over Easter, but we were away for that period, so I haven't seen them yet. And yeah, maybe after this is finished, well, after I finish recording today, I'll try to get them finalised. And if so, I'll pop some footage to show how they look finished. Because in my mind, they're finished objects in terms of the knitting. There is no more knitting to be done. I just need to seam them, stuff them, add some eyes. Maybe add some eyes before I seam and stuff them. But you know what I mean. And I need to find my eyes. I bought a whole pack of safety eyes last year when I made my big emotional support chicken. So I know I have some eyes here somewhere. I just need to locate them. But these were a lovely, cute little palette cleanser to knit. I just used some acrylic yarn out of stash. And it's the Marvel Soft 8-ply in this beautiful yellow colour, which has no name, just a number. 802700347, useful. But yeah, such a joy to knit, so quick and easy. I used a 3.25mm needle for these. I made the beak out of some offcuts of a yarn that I'm using for one of my whips that I will share with you in a minute too. So they were a real joy. I didn't make any modifications. It's the first time I've knit this little pattern, but I saw it on another podcast and I can't remember whose podcast it was now. And I thought, you know what, that's such a lovely little Easter present or Easter treat. And I might even end up making 1 or 2 for myself just to keep as decorations. But these are destined to go to my nieces. So yeah, I'll try to pop up some footage or a photo once they're finished as well. So that's a half finished object. Okay, so on to my works in progress. Now I only really have 3 that I wanted to talk about. Let's start with the oldest. Actually, I haven't worked on this since before I started this test knit. I think that's the last time I worked on it, was before I started this. Haven't picked it up since finishing this one, but I do love this project so much and I want to share it with you before I finish it, because I have not talked about it on here before. And it is actually really close to being done, and I am so excited for this one. I tried it on just before I started this and had an emotional moment. Like, this is what knitting is. This is what brings me so much joy, to see these things come together and when they work out so perfectly. And it was, yeah, perfection. I'm so happy with this one. So let's reveal it, shall we? This is the Salty Days sweater by Veronika Lindberg, or Kutova Kika. I have finished the body and I have finished one sleeve, except for the bind off, because I still want to just double check that it's okay before I make that decision to see if I might need to add a little bit more to it. The body has been blocked up until I think the bottom ribbing, because I really wanted to check to see how the fit was before I made decisions on that ribbing. But the sleeves are obviously unblocked and the collar's not blocked, but I don't feel like that's going to change a lot. And then I'm about halfway through the second sleeve, maybe not quite half. I love this. I love this so much. I loved knitting this. Absolute joy to knit on. I have recorded a bunch of snippets as I was knitting it. I had planned to make a project blog on it, but then I got distracted with everything else that I was working on. And a lot of the knitting that I've done I haven't bothered to sort of document specifically, but I'm so happy with this one. I think knitting this has reinforced my need to knit more garments, because this is turning out so perfect and exactly how I imagined the fit would be, exactly how I envisaged all of it. Like, I'm so super happy. Now, I started this one as part of a knit along hosted by Hayley Space and Morgan Unraveled, and they both have podcasts that I'll link below. I started that knit along last September or October. I think it was early October. And I had a lot of things on the needles, but couldn't resist casting this on, and it really did take priority over some of the other knits. I still have a lot of other things that I haven't finished from last year, but I think this is the next one from last year to get prioritized, just finishing that last sleeve. And yeah, I think the community of knitting this together was really inspiring, really lovely. I do love a knit along, so I've enjoyed this a lot. And absolutely love this pattern. Love the textures, love the different stitch configurations, and I love my yarn choice too. The yarns I chose to knit this in are these two. Oops. So this one here is an 8-ply, 50% bamboo, 50% wool from Bendigo Woolen Mills. And it doesn't have a colourway name, I don't think. No. This one I picked up from their back room when I went there last year. Not while I was there for the Bendigo Wool Show. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. My husband and I popped in there a little while back when we were on a road trip. I think that was my first Bendigo visit. And I found these in the back room. Wasn't quite sure what I would make with them, and I'm not sure that this colour is great on me alone. But when I paired it with this beautiful Holst yarn, I feel like it's just brightened it up a little bit more and really perfect. So this Holst yarn is the Coast base in the colourway Dove. This one is 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton, and it's a lace weight yarn. So this design is written for a DK weight held with mohair, I think. Yes, a mohair. But I started knitting this in October and imagined it to be a really nice transitional season piece, so spring, autumn. And the idea of having mohair on my skin in spring or autumn just didn't fill me full of joy. I do like mohair, but it gets quite warm here, and the prickly factor of mohair when I'm feeling warm is real for me. So I decided to knit this on this cotton wool base, holding it together with a lace weight cotton blend, so that it wasn't quite so fluffy, but it still gave me the right gauge. And it has. That combination has been perfect for meeting gauge. I am knitting this on the recommended needle size, so this is knit on a 5mm or a US 8. And I'm using my Knit Picks needles for this one, which normally, I think every other project I've talked about today has been knit on my Chow Goose. Maybe one hasn't. I think the Love Note was knit on my C-Knit needles, but these were knit. This is knit on my Knit Picks needles, one of the first interchangeable sets I ever got, and I really enjoyed knitting with these actually. I hadn't used them for quite a while, but they were lovely, and it inspired me to actually get more bamboo needles, which I'll talk about with one of my next whips. But yeah, absolutely love this. Modification wise, I don't think I've made a single modification on this. Maybe I didn't quite do the full amount of rounds on the bottom ribbing. I have bound that off, so I'm hoping I'm happy with it once it's finished. But yeah, that has been bound off using, I think, an Italian bind off. Maybe? Yeah, it looks like an Italian bind off. Either way, a joy. Absolute joy. The yarn, the pattern, what will be an amazing finished object and so wearable, I'm super, super excited about. So that's my Salty Days sweater by Veronika Lindberg. My next project is one that I have been quite obsessed with since I cast it on about 2 weeks ago today, I think. And I'm holding this in my crystal cat stitchery bag that I picked up in Bendigo last year. And I am knitting my first Bendigo sweater in this bag. And I'm so excited by this. So let's talk about the yarn first. Let's enjoy the luxury of this one. So this is the Alpaca Allure Sheer Luxury yarn. It is in the colorway Touch of Class 2. This is an alpaca suri silk blend. So you'll see little neps of color through it. And those are sari silk that are spun into this alpaca yarn. It is so soft and so wonderful. So I still have 3 skeins yet to use of this. Oh, this one shows some beautiful little purple speckles. I'm just really, really happy with this yarn. It is stunning. It's been so wonderful to work with, and I'm very excited about this project. I am knitting the long Paddock jumper by Vera Marcu. I'm trying to figure out how to show it to you. I'm on the back panel at the moment. It's a beautifully textured jumper in 8-ply yarn or DK weight yarn. It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Such a pleasure to knit, such a joy, and it is flying off the needles. It looks a little irregular now, but once it blocks out, the panels will regulate a little bit more. What do I tell you about this one? It is glorious. So I'm knitting the size 3 in the pattern, and I'm knitting it on a 3.75mm needle. It is written for a 4mm. Per usual, my gauge was spot on a size down from what is written in the pattern. Now I am using my C-knit needles for this design or for this pattern. And these are a bamboo set that I purchased earlier this year after trying them out on my love note. And I am so happy with them. They are the C-knit curve needles, and they're swivelly and they're glorious. They're just a really nice bamboo needle. And I purchased them from This Lush Corner. They had a sale on earlier this year and I took advantage of that and got myself a set. So really lovely needles to work with, especially with alpaca. It's just been a beautiful knitting experience with the yarn and the needle combination. So yeah, that's been an absolute pleasure to knit on. Modification wise, I knit the ribbing at the bottom, I think 3 centimeters shorter than is written in the pattern. So that is a little bit shorter, but otherwise I am following the pattern as written at this point in time. I have another couple of rows to go. This is the back panel at the moment, so I have a couple of rows to go and then I'll start the short rows for the top of the shoulders, and hopefully later tonight we'll be picking up or starting on the front part of this sweater. I don't think I mentioned it is knit bottom up, so I think I mentioned before I haven't done many bottom up sweaters before. Actually, this is my 3rd bottom up project ever. Haven't finished the second one that I talked about last year. That's in my hibernation pile, but that will come out again soon, I think. But yeah, absolutely loving this project. It is such a joy. The texture in this, and the combination of texture and the change in knitting stitches across the row has made it very engaging. Even though I do like a mindless knit, I like a relaxing knit, I have found this quite relaxing and quite rhythmic because it follows a very clear pattern of stitch combinations, and it is a joy. So that has been really fun. And yeah, 2 weeks on the needles I think today. Let's have a look. How many days on the needles for this one? Maybe it's 3. No, I was right the first time. We are day 15 on the needles with this one. It is flying by. It is going so fast, and it is really such a joy to knit on. I can't wait to pick it up tonight and make some more progress on it. It's just really fun to knit. So highly recommend this one. This pattern is actually part of a collaboration with a number of Australian designers who are part of the Bendigo Project. The Bendigo Project has been developed to mimic sort of like the Rhinebeck sweater concept, but for the Australian Sheep and Wool Show that happens in July each year, or this year in particular. And I think 4 or 5 designers, Australian designers, have joined together to come up with unique patterns that we can knit leading up to Bendigo 2025. And so this design is actually one of those. And the theme for this year is stripes. So this is stripes in terms of the texture. And then there are other patterns that have stripes in terms of colour choices and the like. So there are quite a number of beautiful patterns. I will talk about one more of them in my dream knits. that I'll talk about once I cover the rest of my whips. But so engaging, so lovely. I highly recommend, whether you're going to Rhinebeck or not, this pattern is an absolute joy. The designer Vera specifies that we should be using yarns that don't have a lot of memory. I think that's what she says. So she recommends the alpaca yarn, anything that's not 100% merino. I think just because the stitch pattern, you don't want it to sort of bounce up like that once it's blocked. Once it's blocked, you want it to stay consistent. So yeah, I'm very excited about blocking this one. The gauge swatch turned out amazing, like the fabric just came together so nicely, which I do have here, but I didn't gauge swatch in pattern. The gauge specifications in the pattern say to do it in stockinette, so I just did a stockinette swatch. But I love the way that this yarn came together after a block, so I'm very excited about blocking this one. Once we're closer to the end, I may give it a mid-project block once I'm ready to start the sleeves, just to sort of see how it goes, or how it's going. We'll see how willing I am to wait for it to dry, because it's gotten cooler now and things take a lot longer to dry. But yeah, highly recommend this. Absolutely amazing and so super quick, addictive, really fun. Really great knit. Okay, so we have one more whip that I'd like to talk about that I kind of got obsessed with this week. So my family and I went away for Easter. We went camping in our new caravan over in the Flinders Ranges. And the first day we were there, it was quite hot, and then it cooled down a little bit. And all I could think is I want a blanket. I want a blanket for my caravan. And I had thought this when I went away in March with my family, but it was hot in March, so I didn't really, the thought was there, but it was a fleeting thought, and I didn't really think much more of it. So, yeah, on this trip though, I became very determined to find some yarn on the road during our travels to make a blanket for the caravan. Specifications being, I wanted it to match the colour scheme inside the van, obviously, and I wanted it to be easy care. I could just chuck it in the washing machine if it got grimy, and I'm also concerned, obviously, in the caravan, I don't want to risk moths, so I wanted it to be synthetic. So easy care, synthetic, a nice colour. We spent a day in a little town, it's not that little, like a regional centre, and I went to one of the sort of cheap stores there and saw some yarn, because realistically there are no yarn stores out in that part of the world, not yarn stores like we know yarn stores, but there are some cheap shops that stock acrylic yarn, and I was after acrylic, so I went into one of these stores and I saw a yarn and went, I really like that colour, but maybe there's something better out there. So I left it that day and I didn't buy anything. And I wasn't happy with anything else I saw, which wasn't much. And then a couple of days later we went to a different regional centre, and they had one of these stores there too. It's a chain. And if you're in Australia, you will all know the Reject Shop. And I ended up seeing that same yarn again, and the price was right. It ended up costing me $36 for a blankets quantity. And I picked up, I don't have a ball with me because they're all in the caravan, but I'll show you the object in a minute. But this is the ball band. It's birch, creative, knitting yarn, plain. It's an 8-ply or a DK weight base, 270 meters per 100 grams, I'm pretty sure. It's 70% acrylic, 30% polyester, 8-ply, 270 meters per 100 grams. And this is the colorway Fatigues. And I've already knit a full ball of it. And I love this color. And I'm loving this project. Seems that texture is the way that I'm feeling at the moment. And I love this so much. So I basically finished knitting the first ball of this yarn yesterday. And this is day 5 on the needles, I think. And this is my blanket so far. It's just going to be a throw that I can throw on the end of the bed and then use it to snuggle up under if I'm feeling a bit chilly. Bit of a decorative piece and a little bit of functionality too. So this is the No-Purl ribbed blanket by Purl Soho, and it is a bit addictive. The No-Purl ribbed blanket is actually written in a sport weight yarn, and there is a DK weight version of this blanket which has a different name. Oh, and I can't remember it right now. So I had a look at both of the patterns, but I'm actually using the No-Purl pattern. In terms of the stitch gauge, it's a little more similar to that. But I did adjust it because I'm using a bigger needle size. I'm using a 4.5mm or a US 7. I'm using my ChowGoo interchangeables for this one. And I'm aiming for it to be around 40 inches across and around 60 inches tall. And I think I bought 12 balls of yarn, which is too many. I probably only needed 10, but I can use any leftovers for something else. I'll figure it out. But yeah, really happy with this project so far. So I'm aiming to really knit on this when we're in the van, but I really wanted to, well, I couldn't put it down. I wanted to make more progress on it, and I was really enjoying the rhythmic nature of this knit. No purling, but a rib effect. So there's slip stitches to create that. And it's a free pattern. So yeah, if you're after a blanket pattern that is quite mindless and gives a little bit of texture, which is actually a really beautiful texture, highly recommend this one. I'm not adjusting the actual pattern anyway. I cast on with a long tail cast on. I'm not doing any fancy edgings or anything like that. I did think about doing an I-cord edge and then decided that I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. But yeah, really, really happy with this. It's turning out great and very addictive. So I'm hoping that I can get to the yarn that I have stashed in the caravan and work on this some more at some point. It'll be a great cleansing project between sort of garment knitting that I seem to be obsessed with right now. So that is my last finished object, and it is a joy and a pleasure, and everything that I'm knitting on right now I am so super excited about. And even though I've only shown you 3 projects, I can see a pile over there. Actually, there is one more that I wanted to show you. One more project to show you that I want your opinion on. If you watched Vlogmas this year, you may remember I started knitting the Anthology Throw by Helen Stewart with one of my old advents. And I've made quite a lot of progress on this, but I've recently been wondering whether I restart or repurpose the yarn for something else. And I'm about halfway through, I realise, which makes it seem silly to restart, but I thought I'd show you where I'm at the moment. It's a bit hard to show, it's a bit scrunched up on the needles. I think I have over 500 stitches on the needles right now, but here it is. Really hard to show. So it starts in the centre, which is there. This is terrible. And then you basically work it in the round. And I think I'm almost halfway done. Now looking at it on the screen, I quite like it, but I'm just not sure whether I like it in real life. So I wanted your opinion. Should I keep going? Should I frog? It is a lovely mindless knit as well. It's mainly stockinette apart from a few eyelet rounds. I have the rest of the yarn here in one of my trusty Kmart boxes. I have omitted a colour because I felt like it was a bit too dark for the rest of them. But these are the colours I have left to go. And this is where we're at the moment. Should I keep going? Tell me what you think. I'd love to know what you would do. But that's another whip. I started this one in December, so this has been on the needles for 4.5, almost 5 months now, probably. Now I've got a marker there, and I don't know if that's where I was during Vlogmas or if I put that at a different point. So I've made quite a bit of progress either way. But yeah, I'm just uncertain about it, so I'm not quite sure what to do. And I thought I'd see what you guys think. So yeah, that is the last whip. And then I have a question, another question, because I am planning to cast on a new sock project this week, probably tomorrow. And the sock project I will be casting on is the Bendigo socks by Kath Martin, another beautiful design for the Bendigo Project. And I have 2 yarn choices that I'm tossing up between, that I'm trying to decide which one to actually cast on. And my first choice was this beautiful skein by Half Baked Hand Dyed in the colourway Obsession. And I don't think I picked this up in Bendigo last year. I think I ordered it online after we went to Bendigo. But it's a DK weight self-striping sock yarn. And it is stunning and very similar to a colourway Danny has just released called Hot Jam Donut. It's not quite the same, but it's similar. And then I found some minis that I could use to complement that, which I would hold double because they're 4-ply minis. For the heels, toes, cuffs, there's some striping in those sections of that pattern. So that's choice 1. And then choice 2 is yarn that I actually purchased in Bendigo. And it was the 2024 official Bendigo colourway by My Creative Garage. And it's a sock set with 2 minis. It's in DK weight yarn. Just going to wait for those sirens to stop. That was an ambulance. I hope everyone's okay. Or I hope whoever they're travelling to is going to be okay. Okay, so my second choice is this beautiful yarn by My Creative Garage in the colourway Sprinkles of Bendigo. It is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this is my second choice. And part of me really wants to use this yarn because I purchased it in Bendigo, so how fun would it be to have Bendigo socks in the colourway that's named after Bendigo? Purchased in Bendigo. So I am kind of leaning towards this one, but I love this one because it reminds me of the Hot Jam Donut colourway. What would you do? By the time this goes live, I will have cast it on, but I would still be very interested to know which you would choose. Would you choose the blues or the pinks? Maybe comment blues or pinks below. Let me know what you think. That is all I wanted to chat with you about today. It's going to be a long one, like I thought. It's going to take me a while to edit, but I am so happy that I've been able to finally sit down and chat with you all, and I'm planning for it not to be quite so long between this and the next one, because that was a lot to talk about and a lot to remember and a lot that I had forgotten, which is problematic. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. Now I will just quickly talk about some life stuff, and if you are leaving me here, thank you so much. It's been so fun to chat with you. And if you're staying, yeah, let's get into the life stuff. I mentioned at the start that it's been a super busy year, and it really has. Work's been manic. I think I mentioned in January during my recap video that we were going through a restructure at work, and that is still in progress. That officially goes live on the 1st of January. So we have a big rest of the year to get through before we get to that being operationalized, and it's been quite frantic. So knitting obviously has had a big part in my self-care routine, and as you can see from the finished objects, I've been really diving deep into my knitting to escape the crazy thoughts, the constant overthinking about work stuff. So that's been really good. The other thing that I'm doing at the moment is walking. So I don't know that I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I started the Walk 1,000 Miles Challenge on the 1st of January. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers, so 1,000 miles is just over 1,600 kilometers. And so my aim is to walk that throughout 2025, and I am a little bit behind schedule, but I'm doing okay. I have a tracker that I prepared on Google Sheets, and at the moment I'm just over 300 miles done, which is 489 kilometers, which I'm pretty happy with at the moment. I'm 30% of the way through my challenge, which is pretty good. I would like to be a little bit further along. I feel like the second half of this week I haven't been for a single walk, but normally I'm trying to walk around an hour a day, or around 4.5 to 5 kilometers a day if I can, which is about 2.7 miles, 3 miles, just under 3 miles. And I'm really getting a lot of health benefits from this. I feel like getting more active has been really good for me, both physically and with my mental health. So that's been really great. And I am hoping that I can meet that challenge this year. Would be really nice to be able to meet that the first year. I find a challenge like that really motivates me. Same thing with knit-alongs, same thing with test knits. I get a lot of motivation from these kinds of things. So yeah, that's been really fun. Otherwise, I've been on leave from work over the last week, which has been amazing. So it was really great to get away with the family. That time was just very relaxing and very enjoyable, and I hope that we can do more of that throughout the year, especially now that we have the van. And yeah, back to work tomorrow, unfortunately. Or fortunately. I mean, it's good to have employment, but it's really good to take a rest too. So I might leave you there. I might finish up here because I feel like it is getting quite dark all of a sudden. Daylight savings is over here and it's almost 4 p.m. and the light is on that side of the house. So my window here is not providing a lot of light anymore. But I will chat with you again soon. I look forward to sharing with you how I go with my long paddock, my salty days. And yeah, would love to hear what you think about the Anthology throw and the Bendigo socks. Really excited to get a start on those actually. So take care, happy knitting. Thank you so much for joining me and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.